The Newsday continues here on One News Now Business. I'm Diego Castro. Here are the biggest stories on the economic and corporate fronts. The National Food Authority wants to import 330,000 metric tons of rice. Malacanang said this in anticipation of a deficit in the country's buffer stock of rice this year. The proposed volume is equivalent to 9 days of national consumption from July onwards. The palace added that it would also ensure supply for calamity and relief requirements until December. President Bongbong Marcos, who is also the chief of the Agriculture Department, assures Filipinos that the country has enough supply of rice. However, he notes that the Philippines still needs to import rice as part of the government's measures to control prices. In a video message, Marcos added that it's important for the National Food Authority to have enough buffer stock, saying that the current level is low. The statement comes after the DA and other farmers group warned of a looming rice shortage during the lean months, on top of the expected El Nino.
Maganda naman ang sitwasyon natin, hindi tayo magkukulang sa bigas at tinitignan natin lahat ng paraan upang ang presyo ay makontrol natin at hindi naman masyadong tataas.
The Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentives for Enterprises or CREATE law has so far attracted over 414 billion pesos in investments. Finance Chief Benjamin Diokno said the figure from August 2021 to December 2022 covers priority activities above 1 billion pesos. During an economic briefing in Washington, Diokno called on potential investors to look at the Philippine Strategic Investment Priority Plan. He explained that the plan identifies priority industries, projects, and activities that can be granted fiscal incentives under the CREATE Act. Diokno also underscored infrastructure development as front and center of the country's strategy for economic growth. He said the government is determined to sustain high infrastructure investments through the public-private partnership mechanism. We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Diego Castro. The Bangko Sentral may cut the key policy rate this year if inflation continues to ease. That's according to a report by Business World. Central Bank Governor Felipe Medalla says the BSP may consider rate cuts if inflation eases month on month by 0.2% in the next 6 months. The Bangko Sentral says it's also considering a pause in rate hikes after the country logged what he described as low month-on-month inflation. This after the country logged a 7.6% inflation in March, which was on the lower end of the BSP's forecast of 7.4 to 8.2%. Medalla also said that the Bangko Sentral would revise its inflation projections this year to lower than its initial forecast of 6%. The Monetary Board has passed interest rates by 425 basis points since May 2022, bringing the benchmark rate to a 16-year high of 6.25%. The National Treasury says the government may launch a retail bond offering for Filipino workers overseas next month. According to a report by Business World, the government may sell $1.5 billion worth of 5.5-year debt, according to National Treasurer Rosalia De Leon. The Finance Department earlier said the government was targeting to raise $2 to $3 billion from the retail dollar bond sale. De Leon says overseas Filipinos would find it easier to buy retail bonds as they have the option to do it via partner apps. De Leon also says the government has no plans so far to issue more global dollar bonds this year. The Transportation Department floats the idea of putting up barriers at train stations to avoid accidents. This comes after an incident at the MRT-3 where a passenger allegedly jumped onto the tracks of the railway. The agency renews moves to put up barriers at railway stations after previous administrations failed to carry out the proposal. For now, the department says it will ensure security personnel will carry out proper profiling of passengers.
Dahil po sa kakulangan sa budget, hindi po ito natuloy. So, sa administrasyong ito, atin pong ibabalik ang pursue sa ganitong rekomendasyon kung kakayanin ng budget. Also, atin pong ini-implement, pinapatuloy po natin ang implementasyon ng pagpo-profile po ng ating mga security personnel sa mga pasahero tungkol dun sa mga out of the normal na kilos ng mga pasahero at pinapaalalahanan din po natin ang ating mga personnel sa stations at mga security na paalalahanan patuloy ang pagpapaalala sa ating mga pasahero na huwag tatawid doon sa yellow line hanggat hindi pa po fully stop ang tren.
Despite interest from multiple suitors, Endeavor CEO secured a deal for WWE that values the company at $9.3 billion. Here's how the deal came to be. The full story, courtesy of Bloomberg Quick Take.
The world of entertainment and combat sports are officially one and the same. WWE and UFC are set to become one company after the Ultimate Fighting Championship's parent company, Endeavor, struck a deal to buy World Wrestling Entertainment for $9.3 billion. The two will join together and eventually hit the New York Stock Exchange with a valuation of $21 billion. Bloomberg's Cameron Leach tells us more about how this landmark deal came to fruition.
WWE's combination with UFC comes after a tumultuous few years for the professional wrestling promoter. The business of WWE had been stalled as engagement metrics slowed, key wrestling talent left over poor treatment, and a lack of health insurance. But ultimately, WWE's prospects have been overshadowed and under duress due to McMahon battling with allegations of sexual assault against its employees. The misconduct, in addition to funneling $15 million to keep a lid on the multiple accusations, remained a dark cloud over the company. For a legacy brand with a devout fan base such as WWE, Endeavor could be the refresh needed for a company that's been around since 1953. And now Endeavor CEO Ari Emanuel, a highly regarded super agent and a force in show business, is tasked with negotiating new media rights contracts for the WWE, which is set to expire in 2024. And the new owners will aim for an even higher price tag than its current $1 billion cost. But if history is to serve as any indicator, there is much upside to be seen. Emmanuel purchased UFC in 2016 for $4 billion, but is now a massive valuation of $12 billion.
However, WWE shares tumbled after the news broke, with investors expressing disappointment over the merger.
And those are the top business stories of the hour. I'm Diego Castro. Join us again at 2 p.m. We are One News. All sides, all the time.